Members of the Joint Committee, my name is Jamie Betts. I'm the founder of the Massachusetts chapter of the Changing Spaces campaign. I began this work after experiencing with my daughter Sophia the challenges that traditional handicap restrooms present to the many diaper wearers who can no longer utilize baby changing tables. On a national level, the Changing Spaces campaign is making progress. 5 states have either passed legislation, updated building codes, or established state-funded grant programs to facilitate more widespread adoption of tables. Many other states have legislation introduced. Changing Spaces leaders were part of a task group established by the International Code Council to develop code change and standardized specifications for the installation of tables. These changes are approved to be included in the 2024 International Building Code, and we will look to work with your committee staff to bring the language of H212 in line with those established specifications. I'll never forget my family's first encounter with the universal changing table in a companion care restroom at the Charlotte airport. For the first time, I was not forced to lay Sophia on a filthy floor in order to care for her. I did not have to worry about curious strangers watching her under the stall doors. I didn't need to wrestle on that floor myself, trying to minimize Sophia's exposure, as I have at times needed to do at Boston Logan, state and local parks, libraries, museums, rest stops, supermarkets, amusement parks, shopping malls, beaches, and zoos around Massachusetts. If it is truly important to us that people with disabilities are able to fully participate in the community, then we must recognize that the ADA does not go far enough by simply allowing access into buildings. We need to put equitable restrooms in place so that people can spend a reasonable amount of time away from home without being forced to sacrifice their privacy, safety, and dignity to meet the most basic need of toileting. No one should need to consider fasting before a day away from home in order to avoid an uncomfortable situation or risk infection by staying in a soiled diaper, or the most simple and devastating solution of all, just staying home. I never regret taking Sophia on an outing. I know that every experience furthers her development, and she deserves to participate in all of the activities that her typically developing peers enjoy. But taking her out is hard work on a good day, and the lack of universal changing tables presents another barrier to entry, as we must also plan for how and where we will care for her safely. This experience becomes exponentially more difficult and traumatizing as individuals grow and become more aware that the best our society is willing to offer them is a bathroom floor. This bill is a step in the right direction. The cost to taxpayers will be minimal, given that the changes apply only to new buildings and substantial renovations. The cost of installing these tables are far outweighed by the social and economic benefits to our communities through the presence and engagement of disabled people, their families, and caregivers. I encourage the committee to vote positively on 212 and, just as importantly, to continue to work toward widespread adoption of tables and a Commonwealth where all people have the opportunity to move around their community with comfort and dignity.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you for being here all day.
Of course. Next, I have Karen Romano.
Good afternoon. If the need for universal changing tables never occurred to you, then you don't know my reality and the reality of so many others in the state. My son is 6 years old with complex special needs, and he's not toilet trained. He probably will never be toilet trained. My son's not here in person today because even in our state capitol in the state house, there is not a facility that will allow me to change him in a safe and dignified way. Families like mine are forced to make choices every day about where and how to travel through the Commonwealth in order to accommodate the very ordinary and basic needs of their loved one. Parks, museums, sporting facilities, libraries, public buildings and facilities throughout the state have handicap parking, ramp accessibility, handicap seating options, giving the impression that these facilities are accessible and inclusive and welcoming. But without providing access to a universal changing table, they might as well have a sign on the entrance that say disabled not welcome. The passing of this bill would be a step toward inclusion and equity for the disabled community in Massachusetts. The cost to the state is negligible. And for the businesses and the organizations Because this only applies to new construction and to major renovations, they can incorporate that into their construction plans from the beginning, mitigating those costs. I can remember being a child and going out with my mom and entering a public restroom and listening to her say, "Be quick and don't touch anything." And that memory comes back to me when I get on my hands and knees and put my son on the floor of a public restroom to change his diaper. We can do better. We have to do better. This bill would be a sign that this state values all of its citizens regardless of ability. I hope that you can pass it forward, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us today.
Thank you. Representative O'Day?
Good afternoon. You folks just getting here? Thanks so much for taking me out of turn. But even beyond that, I thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing here today. I know it's been a long day. So I am going to be even briefer than I intended on being. I'm here in support of Bill 205, an act relative to assisting elders and people with disabilities in the Commonwealth. The chief sponsor, lead sponsor of that bill. It is a bill that I have been working on behalf of for, I think, for most of the past 10 to 12 years. And it is one that I think has a great benefit to those who are eligible to take, I don't want to say advantage, but those who are in low poverty would be helped by this bill. So I have submitted significant written testimony. I'm going to let that testimony stand, but wanted to at least show up in person to specify my strong support. And I hope that I can ask that the committee give it its full consideration and hopefully an ought to pass recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Any questions?
We'll look forward to reading your written testimony. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We know where to find you for follow-up. Up next, we have Amy Grady.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Amy Grady. I'm the mother of two children. Connor is 5 and Claire is 4. My son Connor suffered a neurological injury at birth, which resulted in spastic quad CP, epilepsy, and him being 100% dependent on care. I'm testifying today in favor of Bill H212, which would mandate universal changing tables in all newly constructed public buildings. This will allow for a truly inclusive Commonwealth. One of the most fulfilling parts of being a mother is witnessing my children explore our great state, learn, and grow together. As Connor gets older and bigger, we are experiencing the current barriers of accessibility here in Massachusetts. We have had to make our own accommodations when it comes to changing Connor. Unfortunately, today the options are between the public restroom floor or the back of our vehicle. Although both options give my son no dignity, it is this or Connor and our family are forced to go home. Safety, dignity, and life experiences should not be limited because of one's disability. A truly accessible Massachusetts would allow my children and so many others who love to visit and explore the ability to do so without the worry of a basic human need, using a restroom. The older my children get, the greater this barrier is becoming. It is separating the memories and experiences our family makes. We are asking ourselves, is it safer for Connor to stay home than to be out in his community? This is not a Massachusetts anyone deserves. I am asking you today to support Bill H212. Having access to universal changing tables throughout Massachusetts will allow my family and so many others the ability to enjoy our communities without the worry of using a restroom. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Marcy Randall.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcy Randall. I'm the parent of a medically complex 15-year-old boy. My son depends on a wheelchair for both mobility and support, and he's not able to use a toilet for hygiene and relies on incontinence briefs. He's currently over 4 feet tall and close to 80 pounds. The bigger he gets, the heavier and more unwieldy he gets. When we are out in the community and his brief needs to be changed, we either lay him down on the floor or seat of our vehicle or the floor of a public bathroom. If he has an appointment at a doctor's office or at the hospital, we have to wait until we can get into a private exam room to put him on the table in there. And sometimes they don't even want to let us do that. We have even changed him once or twice outdoors on the grass in a secluded area. Talk about being undignified. Not only is this dirty and a wonderful way to catch and spread germs, it's also a matter of privacy and safety. Our diaper bags are overflowing with adult-sized briefs, wipes, disposable gloves, disposable pads to lay underneath him, a cushion to lay underneath the pad, extra clothing that is much larger than baby clothes, and of course, trash bags to dispose of the waste wherever that might be. And hopefully we can find a bin instead of having to bring that home. These challenges make it very difficult to leave our home for long periods of time. There are so many wonderful things in our city and state that he does not get to experience. The lack of a dignified changing space prohibits true and realistic accommodations in our public spaces. I urge you to consider adding universal changing tables to the ADA rules of compliance. Thank you so much for your time and support.
Thank you for being here today. Thank you. Up next, we have R. Feynman.
Good afternoon, Chair Livingston, Chair Kennedy, and all the members of the committee who are left. Thank you for your time. My name is R. Feynman. I am the Senior Community Organizer at the Disability Policy Consortium, which is a statewide disability rights advocacy, policy, and research organization. I'm testifying today in support of Bill H212, an act requiring universal changing stations in public buildings. And I'm also going to mention H212, an act relative to community living for older adults and people with disabilities. We've heard a lot about kids, who are great, but also many disabled adults with a range of disabilities need help with aspects of self-care to maintain their independence, whether that's changing diapers, adjusting catheters, or assisting with other toileting needs. Currently, without changing stations to accommodate them while in public, adults with disabilities have to be changed in unsafe and undignified conditions, such as on bathroom floors. Baby changing tables cannot support adults. And even if they could, because they don't have adjustable heights, many caregivers wouldn't be able to get them onto them. Going hours without changing soiled absorbency products can lead to severe medical conditions, as you also heard about for babies, such as rashes, infections, and skin disintegration. Faced with the choice between this and getting changed on unsanitary bathroom floors, many people would rather just stay home, which severely limits their independence and ability to participate in the community. I'll just say, as a trans person, who has faced the decision between just not eating or drinking or being humiliated about bathrooms in public, it's really crummy. And the state has done a lot in that direction. And I think that it is a fair hope that this direction will be addressed as well. H142 addresses a lot of key concerns of the disability community, many of which are covered in other bills that we've supported. Remote participation in public meetings has made a major difference in my ability to participate in civic life, and many others as well. In my work with the commissions on disability across the state, many of them have remarked on how remote participation has increased the accessibility of their meetings significantly, allowing people who are homebound to participate in their city government, or who just aren't feeling well that day. The legislation governing the Architectural Access Board has needed updates for a long time to make the state more welcoming. Okay, I will send the rest in writing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. We look forward to the additional written testimony. Thank you. At this time, I'll welcome Senator Becca Rausch to testify.
Good afternoon, chairs. Good to see you. Thank you so much for taking my testimony and for taking me out of turn. I am here on Senate 125, an act providing for diaper changing stations in public buildings and accommodations. This is a bill I crafted and filed in my very first term in the legislature. And it was reported out favorably in that term. And then in the second term, Representative Owens came on as a House partner. And then this term, we have Representative Cataldo as well. I understand that you've heard from them already. So you already know the sort of content of the bill and the specter of it. But the short story is we just need some clean, reliable, accessible, equitably accessible spaces to change diapers. It's really just that simple. It's also really not that expensive. The bill is carefully crafted and narrowly tailored to basically ensure that those spaces are available in the same places where people who use a bathroom, people who know how to use a toilet, could find a bathroom to use. And these changing stations do not necessarily need to go into a bathroom, which is part of the accessibility and equitable component of the crafting of this bill. I will also just share that when I was first preparing this bill, I actually heard from someone, Chair Kennedy, who lives in your district, who said that when he was trying to change his daughter's diaper, he couldn't find anywhere to do so that was clean. So he changed her diaper on top of a bar. Not something I had personally done, but frankly, totally understood where he was coming from because it's just that hard to find clean, reliable, equitably accessible places. So I again ask for a favorable report on this bill and happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony today. Thank you so much. Up next, we have Mallory Brown. Okay, thank you. We have next Raquel Quezada.
Good afternoon, Senator Kennedy and Representative Livingstone, and member of the Joint Committee for Children, Family, and Persons with Disability. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys doing. My name is Raquel Quesada. I live in Haverhill, and I'm proud mom of some we have developmental disability and diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Today, I'm testifying in support of the House Bill 212. Enacting required universal changing station and public bathroom. I'm a citizen member of the Massachusetts Developmental Disability Council, NDDC, an independent agency dedicated to empower how do people with the developmental disability and their family to enjoy full productive life by promoting self-sufficiency, community inclusion, and opportunity. My son and others with disability should be able to access the public space in their community, and House Bill 212 will help ensure they have access to public restroom. My son Joan will be 18 years old in October. He weighed 140 pounds. Changing table station currently found in the bathroom today typically accommodate children up to 50 pounds. Due to his cerebral palsy, Joan will continue to require full physical support and adult with his activity daily living and inclusion in toileting. With this right support, Joan is living a meaningful and inclusive life. He loves being active and visiting and exploring park, theater, music, and other public spaces in our community with friends and family. During this week, as part of his public education, turn on the life, likely alive serving, Shoan is also in the community on regular basis and visiting variety of public places. So he is preparing to live in the community as an adult. Access to the community is better for him and his life are meaningful and inclusive, like to both people with disability and without disability. Large adult without, large adult with disability like Shoan have more difficult time being in the community because the public restaurant don't accommodate them. Shoan using a stroller and universal change station will be making using public restroom more easy, more hygienic and safety for him. Please support House of Bill 212 because the legislation is an important step making our community more accessible to all citizens. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we're going to move to individuals who've signed up virtually to testify. First, we have Taylor Brisbane.
Hi, I'm here. I'm not sure if it's possible to get the video option.
Okay, go right ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the chairs and members of the committee. I am joining today to testify in support of H212. I originally am a pediatric school-based physical therapist, and now I'm a special education administrator. I come to this topic of universal changing tables when initially planning more accessible field trips to ensure that the students with multiple disabilities that I work with have access to those same experiences as their siblings and peers. However, when we started this process, it became evident quickly that the limiting factor of helping all of our students experience educational aspects off campus was a lack of accessible restrooms, specifically universal changing tables. And with this, I know field trips is just one aspect of community life, and you're hearing about many of the day-to-day aspects from families. And immediately our thoughts went to the families who are experiencing this on a daily and weekly level with their children. But today I wanted to talk a little bit more about incontinence and just the wide range of disabilities that can impact. Because when we talk about universal changing tables, we're really talking about the need for support of incontinence in the community. And this is not limited to really any age or disability group. Diagnoses that can impact continence and subsequently require supports for bathroom access can range from traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, neurological impairments, intellectual disabilities, and also aging disabilities such as Alzheimer's and dementia. So really the universal aspect of this, we're considering the all with universal changing tables. And if we think about who we usually think about with changing tables, infants and toddlers, in 2020, it was estimated that 6% of the US population was under the age of 5. And really, that's the group that would be able to access the more traditional changing tables that we think of. In that same census, 26% of the US population, or 1 in 4 adults, had some type of disability. That includes mobility disabilities, cognitive disabilities, disabilities that impact their ability to live alone or need support with self-care tasks. So really, in moving towards universal changing tables, it would make public spaces accessible to everyone from infancy through adulthood, and really improve everyone's ability to participate meaningfully in the community. I thank you for your consideration of this bill, and I hope that it moves forward favorably. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Dr. Angela Lynn.
Hello, everyone. I just want to tell you how deeply moved I am by the chair, by the testimonies, by seeing democracy in Massachusetts in action. I'm here as a physician. I have the pleasure of caring for the child of Stacy Betts, and I'm a geneticist. I'm a medical geneticist physician at Mass General Hospital. And for over 30 years, I care for people with special physical needs, developmental disabilities, and autism. And importantly, what I'm trying to do is add something different to this incredible discussion, which is I care for children, but I also care all the way up through the age span to people who are in their 60s or 70s. And the point is, I think we're doing a pretty good job of taking care of special needs people, so there are more adults. And when Stacey asked me to do this, it was an easy ask because I'm a clean freak, because I had a toddler, 25 years ago. I could relate to everything that they were telling me. And what I wanted to add is this idea of the older person, which has been mentioned a couple of times. I had a personal experience with my father who had the humiliating accident and needed to be carried off to a restroom. So I really get it. And I think that all of us do. Some of my comments are identical to the two gentlemen, the two congressmen who gave their own testimony to another bill. And it was really the same thing. I think all of us can understand this is not about urine and feces, as we call it. It's about pee and poop and the smell that goes along with it, and the avoidance of wanting to take care of kids and adults in an unsanitary manner. I hope this is okay. I'm more informal than some of the testifiers. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have Lisa Clues.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for allowing me to provide my experience and support for H212. My name is Lisa Clues, and I have a daughter, Madison, now 23, who was born with a rare chromosomal disorder called Emmanuel syndrome. Madison was never expected to sit up or let alone walk or run in Special Olympics track, which she does today. She is nonverbal hearing impaired, but all of that does not stop her spirit. She loves music with all of her soul and really enjoys concerts and really all social functions. I'm advocating for the need for universal changing stations, a simple and required need for daily living function. Our families have been in challenging and embarrassing situations. Examples, one day at a hospital at Boston Children's, my husband recruited the woman running the little store at the hospital next to the bathroom to watch the door so that he could bring Maddie into the woman's bathroom. Obviously a desperate situation for him to do that. What occurred is that she left the door because a patron came into the store, left him in there. A woman came into the stall next to them. He tried to hide his feet so that he wouldn't scare the woman or put himself in a really awkward situation. When we have trips to Boston Children's, we make plans to stop at the Mass Pike so that we can take Madison into the family bathroom. Since they have a family restroom there, it makes it a little less embarrassing and challenging, but does not help with trying to manage keeping her off of the floor, her clothing, her bag, and all of that off of the unsanitary floor. At one of our son's hockey games, I was trying to change my daughter in the non-handicapped stall, wrestling in a small space, and I knocked her hearing aid off. And of course, it went flying and landed straight into the toilet. So there was $2,500 literally down the drain. Other tactics families do try is to carry a plastic tablecloth around, change the child on a table in front of everyone because there's no option, not even a handicapped stall. We would carry around an actual portable toilet seat to put on the toilets for Madison to sit on so she wouldn't fall in, and we could try to change her while sitting on the toilet. Our truck, as many others, has been a changing station for many years, not a pleasant sight or a situation parents should have to be put in. We have been questioned by people as the appearance at times, both in the car and in a stall. Are we attempting a kidnapping or another illegal act? Because it can get to that point. Another family changed their child next to a stage at the Oakdale Theater, their disabled child. I could go on and on with stories and frustrations, but our families need a safe and clean place to change our children and allow us to be able to go to public events and provide the best life for our children. Just thinking about having to panic and plan special routes or bring a toilet seat or a tablecloth with you the next time you go to run an errand or go to the doctor's, or if you're lucky enough to go to a social function. It exhausts many and ends up forcing families to stay home and at many times lead a lonely life. Please support Bill H212 so family and caretakers can provide care for their daily living function with dignity in a clean setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Up next, we have Kathleen Amaral.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Dear Chair,
Kennedy and Livingstone and others on the committee still there. Thank you for your time today and the opportunity to provide oral testimony. I'm speaking on behalf of the ARC of Massachusetts in support of House Bill 212, an act requiring universal changing stations in public buildings. You have heard such powerful testimony on this bill already, so I will just attempt to add to it for your consideration. We're familiar with infant changing tables, although we hear today there are elements of its own progress needed, but they make it possible for parents and caretakers to retreat to a restroom to change a baby or toddler while out enjoying time with friends and family. Sadly, in Massachusetts, public buildings and community spaces are not required to provide similar and complete equitable toileting accommodations for larger children or adults whose disabilities prevent them from accessing the current standard accessible restroom stall. As was noted earlier by Representative Garbely, Logan Airport has its own space for dogs to toilet, yet no space to accommodate the needs of older children and adults with disabilities. Unfortunately, this leads to isolation and results in many people with disabilities and medical complexities to avoid trips altogether due to lack of accommodation. As a mother to a young man who surpassed the weight limits of those infant changing stations by the time he was 3, but whose disability precludes him from safely using a toilet still due to low muscle tone, our family often faces this dilemma, knowing it may require us to leave early or retreat to a parking garage to change a diaper in the back seat of a minivan, not the most dignified way to meet a basic human need. This bill seeks to provide a safe, private, and hygienic place to meet this most basic human toileting need of people with disabilities while away from home. And on the behalf of the ARC of Massachusetts, I ask that you please take action to pass House Bill 212 favorably soon out of committee. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Madeline Oden. No, not seeing you here. Next, I'm going to go through a series of bills that we don't have anyone yet signed